Welcome to the podcast of the impossible. I'm Peter Wood, and today I'm chatting with magician to the stars, Kourosh Taie. He's entertained Katie Couric, Wolfgang Puck, and today he's entertaining you, and presumably me. We're just hanging out here talking. Join me in welcoming Mr. Kourosh Taie. There we go. I'm excited to have you back here. Congrats on not just name dropping every time you and I are hanging out. I had no idea that you had gotten to bump elbows with that kind of celebrity status.
Yeah, I'm not much of a name dropper. Actually,
good.
I have friends who tell me that I should talk myself up more.
That's always awkward. I mean, it depends on, it's a personality type thing.
Yeah,
but
some people love to talk about themselves. Honestly,
Sure.
I meet people all the time, and if it weren't for people being like, so what do you do?
Yeah.
I don't mention what I do.
Sure.
And then my friends are like, why don't you? It's so interesting. And they're like, why don't you tell them all this cool stuff you do? You're not even like as a profession, but like, outside of my profession, like just, you're like you're an interesting person. I would literally open with that.
Right.
But I don't know. It's weird for me. It's not really my personality type. So usually people go, because it's such a common question. They go, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And when people ask me that, there's like a part of me that's like, there's like this dread that comes over me because
same. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
It's not that I mind telling people what I do. It's because it's like the same thing every time I go, and I think you know what I'm about to say. They go, oh, what do you do? I go, oh, I'm a magician. And over time, I've made sure to over-enunciate the magician part.
Right. Yep.
Because people think you said musician.
Sure.
And so I go, oh, I'm a magician. And they go, oh, what instrument do you play?
Oh, nice.
And I think it's because maybe in their head they go, oh, there's no way.
Yeah.
Magician, that's not a career.
No, definitely
You can't make a career out of that. He must have said musician. What
Yeah.
instrument do you play?
Right.
They go, no. Magician.
Yeah.
Or I'll say mentalist, but I usually say magician because people don't know what a mentalist is.
Yeah. That's
And they go, oh, and then there's all these assumptions that follow that. So they go, oh, so you do kid shows? And I go,
Yeah.
no, I don't do any kid shows.
Yeah.
Zero. And they go, oh, and then they're like confused. They go, oh, so like a clown? I go,
right.
no, not a clown. And then it's like this whole thing every time.
Well, they're trying to figure out, like, how does he make money doing that?
I had one person who asked me what I do, and I told them, and their response, they go, oh, you must have rich parents who support you in order to do that. I go,
Oh, no.
ouch.
Oh, that hurts.
I know.
I mean, back to how many interactions somebody will have with a magician one-on-one, as opposed to there's that jump of like, I think people can conceptualize an accountant who does magic birthday parties on the weekends for fun, right? And that person exists, right? Totally. And then people can also conceptualize headlining in Las Vegas or having your own TV show. But the middle ground is hard to wrap your head around.
It is, and a lot of people don't assume you do it as a profession because you're good at it. They just assume that, because they'll go, but that's not your full-time job. They don't go, but is that your? They go, but that's not your full-time job. And I'm like,
yeah,
no, it is.
Right.
Go, you can't possibly make a living doing that. I go, I do, and they go, oh, it's always a really interesting conversation.
No, I definitely will avoid. I mean, there's that like meeting new people and trying, especially in mixed company, because what always bums me out is like, I know that once we get on the subject of what I do, it is going to monopolize the conversation for the next 10 minutes.
Well, also, we have, I think, the only profession in the world where as soon as we tell someone what we do, we then immediately have to prove it.
Yeah.
Right?
That doesn't happen if you're a police officer. They're not like, oh, cool, can you arrest someone? Like,
but like as soon as I tell, they go, show me something.
Right.
When I was in my older days of magic, when I was like not as confident as a performer, being put on the spot terrified me. I'm okay with it now. Like I'm confident enough that I can show them something.
Well, and I also think I do believe that comes from a place of joy, not from a place of demanding. Like they're so excited that they are hanging out with a magician and they didn't realize that like that's where they go.
Yeah, no, when they ask you to show them something, they're like genuinely excited.
Sure.
Although I don't think they're usually expecting for it to be good. So when it is good, they're like blown away.
I do know that does happen to my comedian friends. That they will say like, "Oh, say something funny," or tell me what's a good joke that and it's just like, oh, like especially if somebody is a comedy writer, like if you're not the sort of person who's just doing like set up punchline, but if you're in comedy but don't have the thing ready to go, then it's like talk about a weird on the spot.
Yeah, it is awkward.
But I think also it is all just about context where a lot of times I won't show something. First of all, I don't really carry stuff on me, but then on top of that, like it does change the sort of dynamic of the group when all of a sudden now you're sort of launching into like, okay, wait, Kourosh might be lying to us now or telling the truth, and there might be something sneaky going on. Like all of a sudden that's different from just a group of people chatting and talking about stuff.
So what do you do if you're put on the spot like that? You said you don't do some. What do you say? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my particular case, I guess my answer would have been different 6 years ago. What my answer is now is, the theme of my show is I'm a collector of the impossible. So I have all this cool impossible stuff that does these amazing things, but I'm not doing a show today, so I didn't bring anything with me. And so because it's less about me having magic powers or knowing how to do some tricks and more about I've got this collection of stuff, thankfully then people, not only does it tell more about the show and hopefully it gets people interested, but also it lets them know, that's why he can't just drop everything and do something magical. But prior to the whole collector of the impossible, like when I was just a magician, usually I would sort of, I would, actually, I wasn't planning on doing anything today, but it would be great to have you come to a show sometime. Like it definitely looks better, when you're sort of like, I would kind of play down the fact that I do walk around magic. I would sort of make it more seem like, if you want to come see me work, it needs to be like on a stage in a theater where you're sitting down,
right. You mentioned, you brought this up that, what's really cool and interesting about your persona being the collector of the possible, and we talked about this on the previous podcast we did, is that, we were talking about how a lot of times people assume that the props are doing all the work for us. But what's interesting is the way you branded yourself, you're saying, no, the props are the magic.
Right.
Which is like, for me, I don't want my audience to think that the props are doing all the work.
Sure.
I want them to know, like, it was me. And but it's really interesting. So like you're okay, you're cool with that thing. That's like, I collect these really interesting props that do magical things, and I'm not doing anything magical. I'm just presenting them to you.
I think
they know it's you.
Right. I mean, I still accept their applause at the end, and they're not applauding for an inanimate object. They're applauding for me, and but I do kind of like that sort of wink and nod. Honestly, I think because it is the opposite of what a lot of, as a magician will buy a prop and they will, and that does the trick for them. But then the audience, the story they present to the audience is, look at me, I have magic powers. And I think the audience is sitting there with their arms folded saying, no, you don't. You bought a thing that does a thing, I kind of love turning that on its head. Where I am standing up there saying, look at this amazing thing. I'm just standing here and look at this. And literally like the light bulbs on Penn and Teller, I have a line in there where I say like, one of the things I love about collecting the impossible is I can present something like this even if I don't know how it works. That's bullshit. I know exactly how it works because I built the thing and I've rehearsed with the thing. But I love that sort of.
That? You mean you just go on Amazon and buy it?
I got it from an antique store in Maine. No.
By the way, congrats on both of your.
Oh, thank you. 2-time loser. It's exciting. Yeah.
You know what though?
Go for a third? Oh no.
There's a lot of people who have never even been on the show or ever.
Sure. Yeah.
Just being on the show is such an honor.
No, I definitely. I mean, that is purposefully self-deprecating. Like, not only an honor, and being invited back, I just felt like the salad field. Like, you like me, you really like me, because that even of the small number of people who even get to go on the show, an even small number get to come back, which is really exciting.
Amazing.
So yeah,
for sure.
But I do enjoy. I'm telling the audience that it's only this thing that's doing it. And I think that they're still sitting there with their arms crossed saying like, you're not telling us the whole story. But
Yeah.
the truth is they're like, I think you're doing more than you're letting us on, you know?
Right. I think that's great.
Yeah. But I can't take a lot of credit. I
Yeah.
mean, I sort of stumbled into that.
It's interesting because like I've used a similar tactic. Like I perform and people go, how are you doing that? I go, it's just a trick deck. You know,
Oh yeah. Nice.
you
Nice.
bought it at a magic shop.
Sure.
And like, yeah, I know. And then they check it out. They're like, I don't see anything. Like, no, it's just a trick deck.
Right,
Like, it's
right.
just sort of like doing this like reverse psychology thing. You're like, no, it's not. I know you're doing.
Right. Right.
No, it's fun playing, like subverting that expectation.
Right. Well, and so I know you do a lot of like private event, like house party type things. Again, not children's birthday party, but also not necessarily you do corporate stuff as well. But
Yeah.
like, you know, I think it's so fun, the dynamic of a house party where like most of the people there at least know some other folks. Like it's a lot more interconnected, I've found, than often a corporate event will be. Yeah, it's a bunch of colleagues, but then they're all coming there with their significant others who might only see those other people annually at the holiday party.
Right.
Whereas a house party, often it'll be people who go back a long ways. You know, do you have to switch any of your material up, or do you have sort of a different tactic or approach when you're doing a private, like a group of people who know each other well, as opposed to something more, a little bit more formal?
I don't change my approach because they know each other well.
Okay.
I do cater the show towards the occasion.
Right.
So like depending on what the occasion is, if they're celebrating a birthday or an anniversary, so my material might change to fit the theme of the event. And I love customizing the show as much as I can for the client, so they feel it was like custom tailored
Yeah.
for them. I make it really interactive, so everyone gets to participate. So they're not just watching me; they're as much of part of the show as I am. If it's like a special occasion, like a birthday or something, like I the way I explain it is, I'm like the birthday person. I'm their opening act. They're gonna close the show and bring the house down.
Nice.
But no, I don't really change it because people know each other.
Mhm.
One thing that I do find always a challenge performing in a private like venue, where like it's like in a small space like a living room, is I find it's a lot of times it's hard to do for a parlor show. A parlor show is basically everyone gathers around and is watching a performance at the same time,
Right.
versus strolling where you're kind of mixing and mingling with small groups of people.
Yeah.
When you're doing a parlor show in a living room, it becomes a very conversational setting. And I find that there's a lot of interruptions. It's hard to get through
Sure.
material because people are constantly, like if you're on a stage, people don't interrupt you to have a dialogue.
Right.
Right. But in a living room situation or something, or like a small office party, they will.
Yeah.
And I often find a lot of times, like between my routines, people then want to have like a dialogue or conversation about their theories on how it happened. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
hey guys, if you could like wait till the end of the show, that would be awesome.
Right. Yeah. You know, I'm still here. Actually,
Yeah.
there was I think it was a private house party where literally they asked me after the show. The host came over, is like, you know, let's give Peter another round of applause. We're gonna say goodbye to him and thank you, and then we can all stay here and talk about how you think it. And it was just a really weird, like, wait, you're kicking me out so that you can talk about, like.
Well, they're gonna
you
do
know.
that regardless.
Sure,
At least
sure,
we're
sure.
open and honest.
Right,
Right.
yeah, that's
they're
true.
they're
Yeah.
all gonna start discussing their
Yeah.
theories on how it was. It's funny when you're still hanging around, you're like packing up, and you can
Yeah.
overhear the conversations going on. It's really interesting, like what
Oh,
they think. A lot of times, the other thing is like people a lot of times also will just take it upon themselves to start grabbing stuff.
Oh, like helping you pack up?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
well, no, that doesn't say helping me pack up, like grabbing stuff to check it out. Sometimes they'll ask, and they're like, "Can I see
sure.
that?" I'm like usually cool about it. I'm like, "Yeah, go for it."
Right.
And sometimes they don't. They'll just grab it. They just want to inspect it, which is another kind of like a thing that can happen at a house party.
Right.
Versus working on a stage where people are less likely to kind of go up on stage. Although I've had that happen too. I've had people
Sure.
go up on stage to examine props, like either before the show or during the intermission.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting. Like, what our art form causes people to have such a curiosity about what we do that sometimes they just like lose all etiquette.
Oh yeah,
Things
sure.
that they wouldn't normally do.
Uh-huh.
Curiosity gets the best of them. They can't help themselves and like
Yeah.
go up and grab something.
Yeah, in a way they wouldn't at like a Broadway show.
Correct.
They're not going to go to Hamilton and after the show just sort of take the stairs and kind of walk around and
Correct.
look at stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
I did one show where people come up to me like, hey, can I see that Rubik's Cube, right? And it's like a normal Rubik's Cube, so I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
And so they like go off in a corner and they have like the person who's got the Rubik's Cube has a circle of people around them, right?
Nice, yeah.
And they're starting to kind of look at, and at some point I'm packing up, I look over. And the guy is prying the tiles.
Oh
off the
no!
cube.
What?
Not the stickers, but you know how like the tiles can pop
Like
off.
yeah, sure.
And he's pulling them off. And I'm like, whoa. Because by the way, the cube is mixed, so if you pull off the tiles, I don't necessarily know where they go back.
Right.
And then
sure.
that makes it like it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
to, like,
yeah,
fix
sure.
it. And I'm like, whoa! I said you could look at it. I didn't say you could disassemble it.
Yeah, I guess they were just trying to find that secret. You know, that's how good.
And then I have people come to me and go, so why were those pieces coming off? And I go, that's how Rubik's Cubes are.
Right, because I guess they've never taken apart a Rubik's Cube before.
No, they don't.
So,
Most people don't
you know.
have. Most people haven't ever really spent that much time examining a Rubik's Cube, like
Right.
ever.
Sure.
So yeah, yeah, it's fun, but it also comes with its challenges at times.
Well, yeah, and it sounds. I mean, yeah, your material, because it's more hands-on, whether you want it to be or not. Like you do have to be a little bit more careful about. And I know that you already prefer. Your show is using everyday objects,
Right.
And so. And most of the time they are legitimate,
Right.
So that allows you to be able to say, sure, you can take a look at that.
I love if I go to a show and let's say the things I'm going to use in the show they already have there.
Right.
I've been to shows where like they had Rubik's Cubes. I'm like, oh, can I use that? Or they have it. And a lot of times people go, can you do that with my deck of cards?
Right.
And I'm like, if you got a deck of cards, please go grab it. Like I will do it. They're like, no, you can't. I'm like, yeah, go grab it.
Yeah.
Usually they don't have a deck of cards.
Right.
But yeah, no, I love performing with like everyday objects, like natural looking objects, not like linking rings and things like that like people would normally carry. I lost my train of thought, but
well, I have a follow-up question though. With it, are you concerned about?
I remember. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I remember what I was gonna say.
Sure.
If I also love performing with objects that people have on them.
Oh yeah.
Because now they can't say that's a gimmicked or trick object, right? Because they know, like, if I'm borrowing their bill or doing something with their keys, they know they can't say it's a trick thing.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
What were you?
No. I'm curious about, again, the visuals in your show. Like when we say everyday objects, you're not showing up with a grocery bag with a bunch of random crap in it, right? Like it's still, but the point is that it is theatrical, and they can tell that you're a professional who meant to be there and isn't just sort of rummaging around finding stuff in their house. But at the same time, like, how much do you think about when you're putting together a set list? Are you thinking in terms of different visuals? Are you thinking in terms of different levels of interactivity? Like, sort of how do you put together when you're doing your 30 or 40 minute house party set?
Yeah, good question. So I'm trying to find things that are like really strong pieces. They don't all have to be visual. I typically do a combination of magic, which is very visual, and mentalism or mind reading, which is usually not visual. It's more like cerebral. Love to blend that all together with comedy. Just create like a really fun experience. So they kind of feel like they see a variety act. I love when I like leave a show, they're like, oh my God, you're like not just a magician, you're like a comedian.
Good.
Yeah. That's I'm really happy when they think like the comedy was just as strong as the magic or the mind reading. Sometimes I'm booked like if they want a mentalist, I'll just do mentalism.
Right. Okay.
But if it's up to me,
I'll
try to do a combination, just to get like that nice variety of like visual magic and like what I love about mentalism is that, when it comes to magic, people like, they'll go, I don't know how you did that, but you must just have really fast hands, or your sleight of hand is really good or something. I didn't see anything, but
Yeah.
but when you do like mentalism, mind reading, you just like literally reveal something that somebody's thinking, or like the name of like their pet or something, that there's no way you could possibly know. That hits different,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
But you know how a lot of mentalists, in order to lend more credibility to what they do, they like distance themselves from magic. So,
Sure. Yeah.
right. So they'll like avoid, for example, using things that would be associated with magicians, like a deck of cards or something, because they're trying to come off like more credible.
Right.
I love magic so much, and I'm not trying to convince anybody that like what I'm doing is like, like I'm a psychic or anything.
Right.
But I love magic so much, like I don't ever see myself putting it aside to like come across as like some serious psychic or anything like that,
I mean, I think you're smart in that you are an entertainer, right? Like,
Right.
and first, if you want to stick a label on it, then that is the primary label. And within that umbrella, you have chosen comedy and magic and mind tricks. But at the end of the day, it's all a means to an end. And the end is making sure folks had a good time.
Exactly. And then sometimes I'll have people come up to like, hey, which of the stuff was magic and which of it was like mentalism?
Oh yeah. Okay.
And it's like a really hard question to answer, because like, where's the line?
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Well, and back to like technically both of the things that I did on Fool Us would be under the category of mentalism, because there was not a physical, there was nothing appearing or disappearing or getting cut and restored. It's in the realm of tricks that happened only in your mind and not in the physical world.
Right. I think you had a prediction there.
I mean, for the X-ray painting routine, the first time it was, Allison being able to figure out which color piece of cloth is in which envelope, which is kind of a prediction.
The light
thing,
bulbs, the light bulbs, you had a prediction.
Well, I mean, yeah. So again, we're sort of getting into the weeds of what's a prediction, but like the final stage of it is I flip the switches in order and the light bulbs go on in a random order, but that random order is matching what Allison is seeing.
Right.
So what's funny is a magician would look at that and be able to say like, oh, that was the final prediction. He or the bulbs were able to predict what Allison was going to choose. But because I'm sort of presenting it as these switches and lights know what you're thinking.
Okay. Right.
It's sort of, again, it's a splitting hairs kind of a thing.
Right.
But again, it's not a prediction where I'm taking something out of an envelope and saying, see, I knew it all along. It's all about the prop.
I always look at mentalism as a genre of magic. Like it falls under the umbrella of magic, even though a lot of mentalists don't want you to know that or think that. But no, I think mentalism is a sub.
I agree. Yep. No, I think, and I mean, I also feel like when you see guys who are at the top of their game, again, name dropping Darren Brown again, where, I think it comes from a place of insecurity if you are really wanting to carefully distance yourself from a magician.
Right.
And it's, my feeling is always like, if you are as good as you say you are, then it shouldn't even cross into someone's mind like, oh, we saw a really good magician. Like if you are totally committed to that persona and that idea of that I'm going to read your mind, then at the very least people, even if they don't believe it, even if they think that it's a trick, they should at least understand that was sort of the theme that you were going for, as opposed to thinking that you're a magician. And if you do a mental demonstration with a deck of cards, I don't think that completely rips apart your whole show.
I agree. I don't think so either.
But, it's fun to get into the weeds and talk about that stuff, which is part of what we're doing here today and why our friend here's tuning in to listen to that. And if you want to find out more about Kourosh Taie, for our folks who are watching it, you can see it on the screen the whole time. But if you're listening on the social medias, it's Mr. Magic Man. So that's ITSMR and then Magic Man. That is Kourosh's social handle on the socials, but then also it's MrMagicMan.com is the best place to find out more about what Kourosh is up to. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Podcast of the Impossible. But for my public shows and social media and the Museum of the Impossible Project and more, you can head on over to oftheimpossible.com. I'm Peter Wood. Thanks.